Recording started.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate another session to sit out here and speak about our typical situation as people of African descent. I thank God for life. I thank God that we're here again another Sunday on one with Kingkoko, the show that is out there to bring everybody to the table on the realities of today. The show that was designed to help people of African descent sit together, talk together, find out what's the differences together, and read their stories together. The same show that we intend to put a handshake across the Atlantic so that we will never be strangers to each other. After 400 years of slavery and sojourn of our brothers in America and the Americas, it is time we bring up a platform that we can always sit back and interact with each other so you can start looking up to each other as a dependent point. The world will never be the same again. We're all aware and we all know where we are at the moment. Most of us are stuck in our houses. Some are stuck in faraway land that probably would never wanted to stay and spend time together. But it is what it is. We are here. COVID-19. COVID-19 came out initially from Wuhan, China, and where nobody ever knew it was not what it is today. Who will ever believe that the world will come to its knees for something as minute as a virus that you can't even see with naked eyes? Who would have believed that the biggest cities of the world, Paris to China, Shanghai, to New York, to Dallas, to Atlanta, to Lagos, Nigeria, Abuja, and all other cities of the world will grind to a halt just because of a minute organism that we cannot see physically. But that is where we are today. This has brought a whole lot of dynamics into our lifestyle. Our lives have changed in so many ways within the last 2 months of actually hibernating away so that we can see, we can use social distance and basic sanitary processes to improve our survival during this process. It is crazy that we cannot just sit back and watch, because if we don't look at the possibilities and what are the situations that have just happened, automatically we're going to be taken for a ride again. People of vision have already sat back to evaluate the situation surrounding the COVID-19, what's going to likely be the direction after it all happened. Today we are all aware of a very strong debate across every part of the society for government to be reopened. American government feels that we cannot shut down the entire economy forever, that we could manage this process using any other approach, which is true, because today we all agree to the fact that if we used the face mask efficiently, that could be a major breakthrough for limiting the spread of this virus. We have come to realize that shutting down the entire system might actually end up harming the entire system at the long run. So people are now discussing both sides of the aisle, whether to continue to shut down or open up the system, let the economies get back to what it used to be. So for me, I am very much open. That's why we made up these discussions today, that people of African descent could sit back and evaluate the COVID-19 situation as it impacts their environment, look at how it impacts nations, because we can see that nations that had a lot of high dependency on others are actually out of touch with the reality, because they cannot probably sustain their livelihood because of the level of dependency. I want to believe this will change forever, because if this doesn't change automatically, it means that the world would have been in a total big mess. The world has changed, our lifestyle has changed, how we work has changed. So we all need to prepare for the change. But this change equally brings in a whole lot of different dynamics to our lifestyle, because as of today, economies have ground to a halt. Government operation is at standstill for governments that did not have digital infrastructures deployed for their operation. Hunger is all over the place. People are now having to live on handover by people, other well wishes. And we can look at American has lost almost 22 million jobs in just a window of 60 days. This has never happened. So this calls for a whole different approach to evaluating how things can be done. How do we move forward from here? How do we protect each other by leveraging on what we know, because they say knowledge is power. Knowledge is power, yes, but if you don't make use of the knowledge you have, then don't blame the next man for making use of that. You're all logged in on t25cl.com. This show is called One on One with King Coco. My name is Atai Albert. I love to do this because I promise to do this because someone has to do this. I promised myself that I will create a platform and stay on course till I bring people of African descent all over the world to the table so we can discuss and equally make a difference with how we live. We cannot continue and expect a difference in our lives because we have to do something differently. So I've invited a very special guest today as part of a panel. We have probably just two today so that we can actually get on board and evaluate these situations as they hit us directly and get each other to be aware and informed on the possibility of taking advantage of post-corona situation. I thank everybody for logging in. I can see my boys all over. I can see my man from right there. Corey Henry is right there. I can see Nimbad on Facebook Live. Benny sir. I can see Elizabeth, my dear wife, is really hanging there just to have a piece of this discussion. So go live on Facebook and be part of the discussion. That's where we are. And we are equally logged in on t25cl.com, the Galaxy Talk Radio. Galaxy Talk Radio is a platform that was offered to us so we will be able to touch up on issues that bother people of African descent. Wherever you are, as long as you have a black skin, your pigmentation is stacked, you are a black man. And we all share in the same travails we deal with wherever we go. We deal with this everywhere we go, and we're not going to let it continue because we don't work together. And the fact that we're working together established the fact that very soon, people of African descent will not be treated anyhow, anywhere, wherever you are found, because we have a place with history. And the fact that we have a place with history means we have to prove to the world at all times that 400 years of slavery has not broken us, that 400 years of slavery has not made us to lose our mind, which is why we believe that if we stuck together, work together, discuss our differences, highlight our similarities, the world becomes ours to take. So I thank God for everything. I welcome everybody here. I have one of the people that I really appreciate talking to. I speak with him almost twice, 3 times a day because I see him to be one of the few Africans or Afrocentric Caribbeans that has his heart towards the heart of Africa. So I want to welcome Mr. Duncan to the show. Hi, Mr. Duncan. How are you doing?
Hey, Kingkoko. How are you doing?
Awesome, my brother. Looks like both of us are going to be stuck with each other for the next 2 hours. And I'm excited because it's with you, because I don't have any problem sitting with you for 2 hours. We do that regularly on the phone. So what about it, sharing your wealth of knowledge with your brothers all over the world? We're having friends logging from everywhere. We have a bunch of people coming in, logging in from California. I have my brothers from Nigeria, a bunch of them logged in too. I have Stephen Wu jumping on the system too. So I have Shehu Keita, that's my homeboy on Facebook Live. So this is going to be a very interesting discussion, and we intend to keep this discussion throughout till we ensure that people of African descent have come together. So Lenny, welcome, and where are you today? Because you're a very dynamic person. Where are you today, sir?
I'm in the belly of the beast in New York, man.
Whoa, New York City. Whoa, I'm just here in New York City with 746,000 COVID-19 cases and 41,000 deaths. What's New York like today, brother?
Yeah. Well, you can't describe it, having been in the Times Square area for like 20 years straight. Times Square is completely empty. It's like a ghost town.
Oh my God.
It's like, this is a place that has 55 million visitors every year. Okay? This is a place where we would videotape the balls dropping, and 1 million people will be outside of our windows. See, this is where we launched the venture into Africa. It's, we opposite the office is the NASDAQ, and every time one of these companies go IPO, we used to go downstairs and videotape their eyes to see what it is to become a billionaire in 2 seconds as they watch their stock rise. Like when Facebook came out, and when when GoPro became live, IPO. So this is where everything happened. MTV, VH1, BET, NBC headquarters, CBS, everybody. And Viacom, that just bought over CBS, is right there. So all of a sudden, within 1 month, everything changed, kingkoko. Everything changed. Everything disappeared. I have been through two World Trade Center bombs, okay? Because at that time I was down on Wall Street. World Trade Center is down on Wall Street. And I remember what happened then and how difficult it was for New York to recover. But that time it was only 2,700 deaths. Do you realize that within 2 weeks, we surpassed that number?
I know. That's crazy.
So
for real.
I think people are in complete denial as to what happened. Because if you think about New York City as a place where you have over 7,000 miles of subway systems, just riding in the subway, you can't be 6 feet away. It's impossible to do 6 degrees of separation or 6 feet of separation. It's impossible. So I think my friend Ronnie Wright, the celebrity photographer, who I worked with for so many years, for the first time he's hunkered down in Harlem. He can't even move. We lost a very good friend who was one of the top martial artists out of lower Manhattan. He out of fear and stress, he died from a heart attack going to the pharmacy to pick up his own medication. So it's very, very sad.
Whoa.
Yes. I don't know how we... Yeah,
whoa, Lenny. Thank you very much. That's Lenny's voice out of New York City, the belly of the beast. That's the way he put it. This guy has a way with words, man. He puts the words, they sound like they're so palatable, even when they're hitting you very hard. But that having been said, New York City, where you have 55 million yearly walk through, where you have the ball drops every year, 31st of every year, signaling a brand new year. Today is an empty space. Nothing is happening. Talk about a multi-billion-dollar economy. The Wall Street NASDAQ is right next door, and today is empty. The same thing happens in Paris. The same thing is happening in Brazil. The same thing happening in Lagos, Nigeria. Same thing happening in Berlin. Everywhere is permanently shut down. What do you think is the impact of this on the global economy, if I may just ask you? You know where we're going? We're going to see winners and losers at the end of the day. But let's take it in strides as we go, so we can capture the whole essence of this discussion. Lenny, what do you think is the whole impact of this globally?
You see, the future of the past is always the past about the future.
Oh my
now
God.
Let's think about it. When 9/11 happens, okay, September 11th, 2001, the month after September 11, 2001, something happened that changed the entire face of technology. Apple released the iPod. Nobody expected Steve Jobs to release the iPod amidst all that chaos and sadness and ejection and rejection and fear. But, in the whole Asian culture, opportunity and chaos have the same symbol.
Right.
So iPod was released then to give people a chance to tune out. Remember what the iPod was all about? There was no speakers. You put it in your ear and you cut the world out. In other words, there was no world around you except yourself. Okay? That lasts until 2007, until June 30th, 2007. So during that period of October 2001 to June 30th, 2007, new technology came in that changed the face of what it is today. It became me, mine, and I. Individualism, we moved from network sharing to individual devices. That was the iPod. The iPod led to the iPhone. On June 30th, 2007, there were lines and lines and lines of people lining up in front of Apple Store to get their first iPhone. The iPhone empowered the millennials. Remember, the millennials were in college when the iPod came out. So Steve Jobs was able to develop that group of me, mine, and I-isms. The people who were just individual to themselves. They didn't want to hear anybody else but that music. Okay? What that also did, Coco, it also wiped out the black music industry. Because at the time, we had the radio stations and WBLS, WIB, all these radio stations in New York City that determined the trends. Those guys started losing their jobs because now deals were made with the record industry whereby instead of buying an entire album, you are now downloading one song out of a very good album for like 99 cents.
Yeah. Let me hold it right there. Let me hold it right there because I don't want us to lose the thought of where we come from. I know that, I'm just going to play back something that might be of relevance on this discussion. We just realized that of all the sectors in the economy, be it in America, be it in Africa, be it in China, I think actually it's actually the technology space that we have seen that has come to bring us. What would life have been without technology during COVID-19?
Can you repeat?
What would life have been like without technology during these times? Because apparently I think it's the only thing that's surviving us is technology. We're still living alive on technology.
Yes.
We're still having interaction. We're still buying and selling. Governments are still working as if nothing has happened for those that have deployed digital infrastructures for their own people. But a bunch of other societies like Africa that we all come from, that we are passionate about, did not embrace technology that much. So till today, Africa is still looking for how to find a way to keep the government running, to keep the taxes coming in, because they don't have technology. What would the life have been without technology at this time?
Well, it would have been like the dark ages because, you know, the one thing about progress is that it becomes very addictive. And because of what happened after 9/11, people got addicted to very quick solutions. That's what I was saying to you about the iPod and the iPhone and the iPad and this I. The individualism creates a sort of strength, an inner strength, that allowed them to believe they could put a president like Barack Obama in power. So what would life be? It would be something where you cannot connect to the person who share your ideas. Okay? So being at home right now, people are really utilizing the training they got out of necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention. To survive. Because they can still connect through Zoom, through Microsoft Teams and so on. Now in Africa, because I've been there going back and forth for the last 30 years, Africa has a great opportunity now to transform. Because even though in the United States, necessity is the mother of invention, as well as all through the Americas. In Africa, necessity is the father of finance. So when you need to do something, like how you guys in Nigeria needed the GSM phone. Look what you did with the GSM phones. Okay? Out of necessity, you put those phones in place because the landlines were too expensive. So if we look at what's happening now, post-COVID, there's a whole series of products that are going to be released in the world out of necessity. The first necessity is sustainability, survival.
Right.
Okay. In terms of survival, how do we then mitigate the risk of being recontaminated post-virus? And it turns out that, look at what it's saying about the chloroquine, right? The chloroquine, that tablet you take when you have malaria.
Yes, chloroquine phosphate, yes.
Africa. Right, sulfate. And, of course, the president has been talking about using that, but not. You have to give the right reason. So Africa has had the ability to come up against these type of viruses and survive. And sometimes not even survive, but thrive. You follow what I'm saying?
Correct.
So you can't, you have to look at Africa as a place that has automatic resilience against these type of mass.
Yeah, Lenny, you just took me somewhere now. Thanks for driving me in that direction, because sometimes being interactive helps me really bring some very pertinent discussions to the table. Africa today has barely 2,000 deaths, 2,000 infections, with Nigeria with barely 19 deaths. Why do you think Africa seems to survive despite the prediction by the Gates that Africa will be dropping like flies on the streets on the streets? Why do you think Africa is likely not going to see this hit them as hard as Europe, America, and the Chinese?
Well, first of all, there's natural separation in the rural areas, okay? Within the suburban areas and the urban areas, I'll use Nigeria as an example. Nigeria is 53% urban versus the United States, which is 83.2% urban, okay?
Okay.
So what happens in Nigeria, as I have seen from my own experiences going there, is that even though people are close together, okay, you need an agent to enter into that closeness in order to contaminate anyone. Right? And
Yeah.
remember, COVID was imported into Nigeria. So the easiest way to protect yourself is to make sure that the people who came in don't come close to you for that period of time. So,
Okay.
But there's natural quarantine. There's natural quarantine between the different levels of the economic pyramid. The TOP, right?
Right.
The top of the pyramid. You live in Banana Island. You live in
Ikoyi and the VIs, yeah.
Okay. Right. You don't live in Oshomolo. You don't live in you know what I mean?
Right.
These parts of where you have riverine territories. So naturally, nature has a way of protecting masses. And the way nature protects masses is that the BOP, or the bottom of the pyramid, they are magnetically drawn to each other. And in so doing, it protects them. It's what you call a herd protection. Like a herd, not to use a word like relates to animals, but what happens is
I know. Right.
Okay, understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Right. Lenny, let me just pop in there.
Okay.
Let me just pop in there. I speak with Lenny Duncan. Lenny lives in New York City. He's lived in New York City for the past 35 years. Actually, from Trinidad and Tobago. Lenny has been one advocate of digitalizing Africa, giving Africa an edge over technology, because that's what he does best. And we're still not giving up, because we believe that the next big technology should come out of Africa. And that is one man that I think will chart that cause. But having said that, you see, I want to go to Nigeria now. Nigeria itself has been is a very unique place, like we all know. When the whole world was screaming about COVID taking over the whole place, Nigerians were still going about their life as nothing happened. And then after that, we now realize that the governors from the northern states said, "Oh, we cannot shut down. Our people are farmers." But straight up, their people are not just farmers, but normals. They move around a lot. Some of them probably don't live in those kind of big homes like that, so I not really have where to go to. But the NCDC guy, manages the whole COVID process, said, "Whoa, this does not make Nigeria safer at all." Do you still see the possibility of Nigeria being infected with kind of numbers we're seeing today in America or in Europe?
No. That would not happen. I mean, I have been in Nigeria since 1990. We brought Microsoft Windows 3.0 to Nigeria. And what I love about Nigeria is that the tribal relationships, which many people from outside may see as a division, is really a protection mechanism. Because if you look at the wars you had, that Biafran war, okay, people were able to go way into their villages and protect themselves. To a certain extent, the same thing happened with this viral war that's going on between COVID and people, okay? So as long as you can go with your family, your friends, family, followers, as we say in the business. You can protect yourself. Nothing. One has to the median age of Nigeria versus the median age of the United States, the median age of Japan, the median age of China.
Yeah.
Now, the median age in Africa altogether is 19.7 years old.
That's a very young population.
Nigeria is only 18 years old. 18 years. The median age in Japan is 48.1. In the United States, it's 38.1. Okay? In China, it's about 35.
Okay.
So that has a lot to do with mass infection as it relates to the older population. Not so much that old means that you're going to be infected, but sometimes there are underlying immune systems that are compromised. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Okay. So Nigeria, by virtue of the type of foods that you eat, remember, chloroquine is the artificial version of quinine, and quinine comes from a type of tree.
They call it neem tree, the Dogonyaro tree. Neem tree, the neem tree, yes, you're right.
You guys have it down there.
Right.
What I found strange is that nobody is mentioning Nigeria and Nigeria's ability to resist those type of diseases.
Man, you know, Lenny, you're one man that's always told me about how we are not really representing us well. You're one man that always said that if Nigeria gets going, the entire Africa will get going. If the entire Africa gets going, then the entire black race gets going. You're the same guy who I've really listened to so many times, who believes that we have not protected our brand. And because we've not protected our brand, we are almost an endangered species globally. You can see with this age and time of digital communication, we can see what happens all over the world to black folks, how they're being hounded like bear animals. But that having been said, you know, it's because you equally use the one guy who used the phrase that man's extremities is God opportunities. I've learned a lot from you, and I think there's still a lot to be learned out of that. But let me just, I have a write-up. Someone, my friend, just said here, what do you really want Nigeria after, what do you want out of Nigeria after COVID-19 pandemics? Getting leaders to be accountable for their funny policies. We need to strengthen all our institutions. We need increased healthcare spending and training of the personnel with world-class best practice. That brings me to another point. Nigeria just lost a de facto president and was buried yesterday. There was all kinds of insinuations on how the burial was handled, but that's not the subject of today. What do you think African leadership should take away from this COVID situation? Because let me throw some light on it. The people are now more aware that their government shall change them, not just in healthcare, in terms of welfare, in terms of putting palliative in place to protect them during this kind of period. People have come to be very disappointed in government, especially in the African context. Some countries have even said they don't want to even believe in social distancing. They don't want to believe in the whole approach to manage the crisis. What do you think leadership in Africa should learn out of this? Because like in my last show last week, what I said was, there's never been a time like this that the rich, the mighty, the poor, the leadership, everybody has been in the same boat. You can't believe that Nigeria, with some of the highest number of private jets, couldn't just board their plane and fly to Germany or fly to America to look for the best medical situation. You can't just believe that today you cannot even move from one city to the other. You are stuck with the people you have been leading blindly and robbing them blind. What do you think this portrays for leadership in the African continent?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. It's the best possible opportunity you have now. Sadly so, but rightly so. Because nature has a way of balancing out itself. For you to develop the best possible leadership. You see, you cannot correct an inertia unless you get in front of it. You know, momentum cannot be stopped from the back. You have to jump in front of it. That's why you have so many disruptors in Silicon Valley. So what I'm saying to you is this. You have an embarrassment of riches, an embarrassment of opportunities that lie right here. First of all, because here, you can feed yourself. most people who speak about Africa always talk about hungry people. I've never seen that in the way that it is described here in the West. Secondly, Nigeria has to reach out to its diaspora. Instead of waiting for Asian investment, Asian and anything like that. But the amount of investment in the Chinese, you can get it from your own diaspora right here in the United States, in Europe, in Asia, in Oceania, which is Australia, and so on. Okay? So to get leadership going, you have to use the people who you sent outside of Africa. Whether it's 400 years ago you sent them, or 20 years ago, or 50 years ago. The fact remains, your greatest asset is the African diaspora all over the world.
Whoa.
In addition to the 55 African countries.
Whoa.
And I'll tell you why.
Right.
Black America.
Right.
Black America is the most endowed, gifted, financially powerful group of Africans in the world today. The spending power formally is $1.3 trillion. Informally is about 4 times that.
All right.
Okay?
Yes.
Now now understand what I'm saying. If Black America understands that its greatest partner is the demographic dividend of Africa, the demographic dividend of Africa is 1.3 billion people. But what is even better than the demographic dividend, kingkoko, is the digital dividend of Africa. The digital dividend of Africa is 550 million internet users. 550 million. That is bigger than the United States, Canada, England or UK, France, and Germany put together. Those are the G7 countries, except for Japan is not included. The G7 countries control 60% of the world's wealth, the world's spending power. Well, guess what? Black America is part of a G7 country. The African diaspora living in the United States is part of a G7 country. You don't separate yourself. You include yourself. And when you include yourself, Africa becomes the biggest supply chain for Black America. If you get Black America going, where these places like in Atlanta, like places like Bankhead, places like Alpharetta, whether it's on the BOP or the TOP, you get Atlanta going. Atlanta is the second largest black city in the entire United States. New York is number 1. But Atlanta is still the leader because quite unlike New York with 5 boroughs, Atlanta is one place. That's starters. Secondly, the Caribbean community, which is the root of the Americas, because most Black Americans came to the Caribbean first before they came to the United States.
To the America, yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
To the Americas, okay. The Caribbean people are more Afrocentric only because we are from Ireland. So they refer to us as SID, which are considered under the UN small island developing states, which means that our statistics, our demographic dividend, and our digital dividend are aggregated. So that you don't see the individual islands, you just see the Caribbean. Yet, the Caribbean controls 50% of all cruise ships in the world. And the biggest visitors to the Caribbean is the United States. Well, guess what? Black America is the United States. This is the group that if
TalkShoe Live. This episode is being recorded and streamed live on TalkShoe.com. You are joining the online studio. You are unmuted and can speak with the host.
Awesome. Lenny.
Recording started.
Okay, sorry, man. Let me just recap a little bit because you've tried a whole lot of numbers out there. Africa is with its 1.3 billion people, has about the largest digital dividend today globally with 500,000 internet users, bigger than America and Europe all combined together. Africa becomes one of the biggest value chains which is why we see a whole lot of Facebook, Bill Gates are all running all over the place. But it's only we in Africa that does not seem to appreciate that. We touch on the fact that leadership has to learn from this COVID-19 situation, because they might never have another chance that will make them drawn into doing the right thing for their people. Because we strongly believe that if Nigeria as a country gets going, we believe Africa will just get going. And if Africa gets going, black man all over the world give us right place. We touch on the fact that the African American has a spending power, official spending power, $1.3 trillion. That is higher than the economy of the Kuwait and Saudi all thrown together. But we don't seem to have the impact back over there. So what I want us to look at is, Africans have come to this point. We have not been given a right or respect, despite being the people that has built the entire world after 400 years of slavery, which was celebrated just last year. The leadership situation today in Africa, what can we do to put up the right leadership in Africa that will be Afrocentric enough to welcome people of African descent? Already it's happening in trickles in the Ghanas, because their president, I know, went on a tour across the Caribbean to invite people of Africans to come home. And we know that the strength of the black man lies in his diaspora population. The strength of the Africa is still tied up to those that were taken out here that has been able to add a lot of value to themselves, respect contracts, live in a system that we all appreciate and respect. But this is not what's happening in Africa. Why and how can we pull up the right governance, the right leadership out of Africa that should take us from where we are, bearing in mind the experience of COVID-19, where dependencies on China has exposed how vulnerable that we are. Dependencies on China has shown that if you don't go back to produce what you eat, at least, the likelihood is that you might starve if COVID-19 is extended for another 12 months. We pray that doesn't happen. Right. So what is your take on that situation? Because it's important we address all these things now that we are still breathing. We cannot transfer these liabilities to the next generation. It's already captured 3 generations. And if we can do something, what can we do to change the mentality of the African leadership to appreciate the fact that a black man is not just a black man in Africa?
Okay, I'll tell you something. I have a very different view of what leadership is all about. I think we hear the same mantra all the time: Africa needs better leaders, Africa needs better leaders, okay? Yeah, you can say that, but guess what? China is only one guy in charge of 1.3 billion people. India is only one guy in charge of 1.3 billion people. Africa is 55 guys in charge of 1.3 billion people. Have you ever tried making a leader out of 55 people? It's not going to happen. Because the Treaty of Berlin, the Conference of Berlin in 1885, was designed so we'll have this argument today. We will never have a solution. So as long as we understand that post-1885, okay, when we were divided up into Francophone and Anglophone and Lusophone and so on, and Hispanophone, the different parts of Africa, okay? If you don't correct that, you'll always be occupying your time looking for leadership, which in fact you will never find like that. The way you get leadership is through the creative economy. The only way Africa can get leadership is the creative economy. I'll tell you why. If you look at Black America, the people who we know the most are the actors, the footballers, the basketball players, you know what I'm saying?
The preachers, and all those.
Yeah, exactly. But even preaching is part of the creative economy. So I'm saying to you, kingkoko, okay, that quest for that leader, that so-called leader of Africa, it ain't going to happen like that. Because the minute you agree on something, another group is going to disagree. That's what they have us constantly thinking that we should find new leadership. When in fact, Africans are so independent, they can lead themselves. into a certain direction. What we lack is not the leadership. What we lack is a target. We lack a goal. The goal for all Africans anywhere in the world is to monetize the creative economy, because that's what comes to us naturally. And the creative economy is, okay, tell the word team. T is for tourism. We like each other. We move to see the greatness of Africa, or the greatness of the south of the United States. Or then E is entertainment. Think of how many people know about Africa through Manu Dibango, through Fela. Think of how many Africans know about the United States through Michael Jackson, through,
Prince, and even Davido of late. Yeah.
Davido. Okay. Think about the Caribbean. Bob Marley. So all in the last 400 years, even if we look at it in the last 50 years, 60 years, it has always been the creative economy and sports. So and guess what? The creative economy is worth $2.3 trillion, right? That's more than the spending power of Black America. Yet Black America controls and influences, along with Africa, a $4.4 trillion entertainment and media industry. That's what we control.
Before you go too deep into that, because I know you can throw a whole lot of those numbers that will scare some of us out of this. Why has Africans, with this knowledge of creative economy, we've highlighted it. I strongly see that in Nigeria. Look at YouTube, look at Facebook. 90% of creative content that you find on those platforms are from African continent. You know what I'm saying? The few things you will see that might amuse you on YouTube and Facebook and make you laugh are basically stuff that are put up there by people of African descent. Apart from that, all of that stuff you see presented by white folks has some kind of content that might not want your kids to watch sometime. So, but today Africa is struggling economically. And now this COVID situation has even made it worse. Oil has come down to about $17 or $20 a barrel. It is time to look for alternative. Agriculture has always been something we all claim we could feed the world, but for some strange reason, we have not taken agriculture to the next level for reasons that we know. Why do you think till today we cannot monetize creative economy in Africa?
Because you have a fragmented market.
A fragmented market?
Okay. Well, New York is considered, in the Nielsen, the Nielsen system that determines your ratings and your share for every single television show. Okay. Right. The New York market is the number one market, but it's considered a fragmented market because you have so many radio stations and so many television stations. Okay. So when you look at Africa, you have 55 fragments right away. 55 countries, right? Now let's take a country like Nigeria. You have 36 fragments within that one country. Within each state, let's take, for instance, Lagos State, okay?
Right.
Oh, no, let's take your state. Let's take Akwa Ibom. You have 31 local government areas, another fragment, okay? Now, I know 18 has about 67 wards. So when you fragment, you can't use...
Nothing to hold on to.
...used before. Very good. Because what allowed Black America to become number one in music around the world? Because we grew up listening to James Brown and all these guys. I mean, I'm dating myself. But what allowed that was mass communication, not individual social media communication. Okay? Social media, as much as it looks as though it's helping us, what it's doing is individualizing us. So individual movie producers within Hollywood upload their movies to YouTube in order to monetize the movies. And the way that is done is that after you cross 1,000 subscribers, you can now negotiate YouTube so that you get a percentage of the ads that are played before, during, and after. So there's some money, but there's very, very little money. Now, if you think about, the question was, why hasn't Nigeria done what it's supposed to do, and why hasn't Africa done it?
Right.
Yeah, but you know what? You have achieved it. But it's 4 steps. Make, manage, market, monetize. You have made the movies. You are very good at making movies. You're very good at making music. But where you have the challenge is manage. Remember, it's 4 steps. Make, manage, market, and monetize. Is it managing what you have made is where you lose control. So how you manage it? You just upload it to YouTube. All right? You upload it to YouTube without requesting money in return. So what YouTube does, before you reach 1,000 subscribers, it monetizes all the Nollywood movies, because the Nollywood movies are very exciting movies. Very exciting. Okay? Secondly, if you can't manage, how do you market? It's not what you sell the movie for, it's what the movie can sell.
Correct.
You can afford to give away movies for free, like what television used to be. But in the meantime, that movie, the very soap operas in the United States, was developed to sell soap. That's why Procter & Gamble at that time became so rich. They created television shows that had soap powder being advertised. That's why it's called soap operas.
Right.
In Nigeria, with Nollywood, think of how many products you can sell through these movies. Every movie in Nigeria that is popular is based on somebody's household. It's always in somebody's living room. Look at the beautiful furniture. Look at the television set. Every one of those items can sell. I was lucky enough to have met Amatola, your famous film
Oh yeah, I know.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you know, I've been there, and I've been able to show technology. Nigerians are very appreciative of technology. The problem is, or I wouldn't say problem, the challenge in Nigeria is, you have to have a supply chain and a demand chain. If you're supplying new movies, where is your demand chain? Who is actually requesting Nigerian movies as a group? And that group should be the African diaspora. When you just put it on YouTube, you are not identifying your demand chain. So therefore, you can't be a bona fide supply chain. If every time a new movie came out in Nigeria, let's take the top 10 movies, and those top 10 movies were to premiere in Atlanta, in Mississippi, in Oakland, California, in Brooklyn, New York, in Trinidad and Jamaica, you will have a demand chain for your movies. The reverse is also true. There are more Black American movies that you don't see than those that you see. The Black Panther and all that was produced and so on, I mean, that is just one in a million that's being produced right here in Atlanta. So what I'm saying to you, Kingkoko, is that if you keep saying that you need new leaders, the people who set up that Berlin 1885 conference is just sitting here laughing at us and say, yeah, wow, we have them after over 150 years and they're still saying the same thing. No,
Whoa.
You have the AFCCA, Kingkoko.
Okay, cool,
and
man.
Nigerian is now, you understand what I'm saying?
Totally. We don't do. I think we discussed this subject matter before, and you're still very much correct, but it's based on all evidence available, and I totally subscribe to that thinking. We look forward to being able to see if we can get leadership. I am now a major advocate for digital transformation in Nigeria, in Africa, in context. And I think because Nigeria itself is a leadership-driven society, it's very important to actually find a way to get their buy-in to hold this situation, because leadership is very important. And you might have your own perspective on that, because when you're now likely to all aspects of leadership and disappointment that we as the people have had to deal with, then we have a question of leadership, because in as much as they don't just be able to monetize most of our energy or our strength, they will not even be able to make use of resources that God has provided us with to make sure that everybody feels the peace of that peace and comfort. We are now listening to One-on-One with Kingkoko Show. It's a radio show that is running on T25CL.com, Galaxy Talk Radio. We're going to keep this real because we promise to create a platform for people of African descent wherever they are, be that in the continent of Africa, in the Americas, or United States, or in Europe. We want to make sure that we now start writing our own story, so we can actually present our stories the way we want the world to see it. For over 400 years, people have always created a story and give it to us, and making us look like what they think we should look like. But for once, we're now coming up with a platform. We may appeal that we all just tune in and share our knowledge and contribution on this platform, because this platform is reaching out to way across the Atlantic. I have another guest that came in, Mr. Lenny. I would just want to hear my other partner that just showed up on the line, Mr. Namso Akbar. Namso, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. I enjoyed listening to the last caller. And I just got a few things to say once you give me an opportunity to.
Awesome. I'm sure you guys, I believe that you have a lot to say, because at the end of the day, the strength of the African continent is diaspora population. Because we strongly believe that the diaspora population of Africa has actually paid their dues in the Western world and has equally imbibed and added a whole lot of value based on their environment, because they stay competitive here. Nigerians are some of the most educated people here in Africa, in America. That's not to mention we have a college degree family setting more than any other race in this part of the world. But we have not been given the benefit of doubt that we have been doing all this, supporting the American system, and we're continually being beaten down over every little issue because we've not been able to protect our brand. Why do you think that Africans have not been able to protect their brand across the globe? You go to China, we're being hounded like animals. You go to Europe, the same thing. Why is the African man still struggling to protect that brand? Namso.
Well, let me ride off the back of what you said about leadership. But it's the leaders that any of us Africans understand. And that's why. You see, knowledge is power. When you don't have the knowledge, you cannot have the power.
Okay. So that's just what you think it's just about. Well, I totally subscribe to that, because I was on a show with my boy Atai Kide sometime last week. This week that just passed. And there was a question about how we choose our leadership, and I want us to I'm going to throw some light on this as I speak, because we cannot continue presenting the worst at their dregs as leadership unknowingly because of our selfish interest. Why I want to say this, because I am privileged to be part of the last 12 to 16 years of politics in my home country and my home state, as well as my hometown. I have seen how we have come to choose leadership in a way that does not bring up the best in us. I've seen how we have carefully kept away men of resources, men of experience and intellect out of politics. I've seen how we have gradually given credibility to masquerades, people that we know the antecedent that they are not trained in the arts of leadership. They are not armed with the knowledge you're talking about. And because people in position of authority has chosen to give power to these people because they feel they will be quote-unquote loyal, we've ended up picking the worst in our society and pushing them to the conduit of leadership orientation from one step, be it from the councillor level to the chairmanship level, and from there to House of Assembly level. And these same people go ahead to become federal House members and senators and governors. So that's a very true call you just made, Namso, and I totally agree with you. We must change the process of choosing our leaders, because it is not possible to get something from nothing, which is what has been going on. Len, I want to ask you a question. Back to our subject of today. What is the role? How can we position Africa technologically to bring the world back to Africa? I want to give you that edge.
But let me tell you very quickly that a lot of things you asked for is already there. I think, like what the brother said about knowledge. Knowledge is power. Okay? In order to position Africa where people are going to come to Africa, people are going to depend on Africa as a supply chain or even as a demand chain, one has to recognize what you already have. Because if you think you don't have something, you would spend another 10 years trying to get it. I've been coming to Africa for 30 years, and I was glad that I met one of the nicest persons there when I arrived. They didn't send me, the Nigerian embassy didn't send me to Lagos, they sent me to Calabar. And I met Chief Sonny Jackson Udo, who was an industrialist, who developed the carpet factory. And I saw something that I never expected to find in Calabar. Okay? You were living there at the time. I didn't even know you. But
yeah, I was there. Right.
Right. But you know your brother, Chief Vinny Obong Jackson, very, very good friend of mine, like a brother. He was able to come to Trinidad. We invited him to Trinidad, so he was able to see what Africa has. Sometimes you have to see what other people have to know what you have. Nigeria had 6 undersea cables connecting Nigeria to the rest of the world. You are one of the most digitally prepared countries, even more than Atlanta. Even more. I mean, of course, Atlanta is not a country, but I'm saying, if you compare Nigeria, Lagos, to the top 20 countries, cities in United States, you will realize that you have more processing power in terms of digital connectivity than the eastern seaboard of the United States and the black cities. So what I'm saying to you is, if, let's take, for instance, Tyler Perry, and he wants to do digital distribution, you could very well position the equivalent of YouTube in Lagos and distribute to all of Africa, as opposed to the other way around, because you only use about 5% of your digital capacity. In addition to that, kingkoko, in order for you to be able to get your country going, you need economic leadership, not political leadership. You see what I'm saying? Because in any environment that was put together by colonial powers, it was put together so you will eternally look for something that you will never find. That's called post-colonial consumer syndrome, PCCS. So we had the same problem in the Caribbean. We still have it to a certain extent. But you know what? What helped us is a guy like Bob Marley. He showed that you could use music to generate $96 million in a very poor country like Jamaica. What helped us is sport. We play cricket. There's a guy named Brian Lara. He's now the most famous cricketer in the world. Okay? You have people like Austin Okocha, who is no longer there, who is no longer playing. But think of how many people Nigeria could provide to the world. Davido. Okay? Right. Davido, all these Afrobeat, leaders. You don't have to always look for political correctness, because in the middle of chaos, you're not going to find that. Okay? One has to look at what you have that America has. What do you have that America has? America is supposed to be a technological giant in the world. Well, guess what? During the time I came to Nigeria, there was no internet. But look at you today. Today you are the number 6 internet country in the world. Way ahead of Germany, way ahead of England, of the UK. But you don't celebrate that. What you constantly keep doing is saying that we need new leadership. We need new leadership. Look, I respect Nigeria. I respect Africa. I spend time in many African countries. Nigeria is an autopilot. You never see it. Because you are part of Nigeria, you will always see what you don't have. But I'm from we're only 1.3 million people.
Lenny, thank you. Lenny, you've just made my day by that comment. And it is very true that you never see what you have until it's taken away from you. I'm being honest with you,
right.
You just reminded me of something that we're very good at. Complaining the situation, but nobody listens to a solution. If you sit down to project a solution, you're going to find one guy who shows up from somewhere taking over the discussion, and at the end of the day, you're going to be screaming on top of your voice, not just to be heard. So you are very much on point on that. And our people are very unique because we romanticize problems. We can talk about, everybody knows our problem, but let's come up with a solution. You find that very people have something on the table. So I wish well, the post-COVID situation would enlighten us very well to learn, to listen more and identify opportunities, because this digital era, between me and you, billionaires will not be able to put a dime on investment opportunity, because if they want to know and understand the intricacies of investment in the digital era, then they will keep your money and be broke probably after some time. So it's very important we get to share some of this knowledge, some of these issues that we're dealing with as a people. Namso. So let me just see. Namso, are you online, man? How you doing? Okay. I think Namso just walked away,
okay,
probably. Okay, go ahead, Lenny.
Okay, kingkoko.
Right, sir.
As we speak about COVID, let's get into COVID. And
Right.
I'm going to show you how many products or services can be monetized with COVID. Okay,
Talk to me. I'm all yours. Yes, man. And everybody listening loud and clear, man. Talk to me.
Let's get frank with this entire thing. Okay. The medical industry in the world is about $8 trillion. Don't think these big farmers aren't sitting down saying, okay, let me see what product I'm going to release that I have patents on. Okay? So what I'm saying to you is this. What can Africa do in terms of managing, marketing, and monetizing the health and wellness industry? Because that's what COVID is going to relate to. In the case of viruses and bacteria, like Ebola and so on, it is based on UV light. UV light is the digital sanitation of viruses. Okay? Notice in Nigeria, I'll show you what you have that you probably don't recognize part of the solution. In Nigeria, you dig a lot of wells. Okay? You put a lot of boreholes and you bring wells up. And I learned something from Nigeria. When you bring the water up from the earth, you pass it through a UV light chamber to kill all the viruses and the bacteria, right? Remember that, kingkoko?
Right.
Okay. That very solution there is the key to creating a new type of wealth. Under the, I don't want to use any big words, but understand something. There's something called electromagnetic spectrum. That's how you hear music, that's how you listen to human voice. The light that you get in the sun is UV light. Part of it is UV light. The higher spectrum of UV light is what kills viruses. But guess what? The Chinese have already set up hundreds of factories producing UV light digital sanitizers. So what Nigeria needs to do, because of your demographic dividend, is to start to become the supply chain for these types of devices in the disinfection and sanitization, sterilization of restaurants, of places where people eat, the airports, hotels, etc. That's one type of business you can do. And don't do it as product, do it as a service.
Right.
Because when it's done as a service, under the World Trade Organization general agreement that you guys have with all of Africa, okay, you can export your service to all the other African countries, including the Caribbean and including Black America. Black America, as I said to you, Black America is the key to bring the Americas and Africa together with Nigeria and with Trinidad. And
So let me reemphasize that our key to total emancipation and takeover is our collaboration with people of African descent in diaspora, be it in America or the Caribbean. They are very Afrocentric people. Instead of us focusing on going to Europe or doing business with Europe and the white America or China to see how they're abusing us all over, if we keep our economy within our black brothers, be them in America or Caribbeans, we are better off. That's what we're saying right here. Am I right?
Yes, and I'm saying that, kingkoko, not so much in terms of racial division.
No,
okay?
I understand. But,
right. Because I'm from Trinidad. We have every single race on the face of the earth. Okay? So what I'm saying to you is this. You've got to create a mosaic of people. Okay? Think about what Black America is good at, what the Caribbean is that. And don't forget, there are 108 million black Brazilians, Afro-Brazilians. We don't know any of them. That's the key. You have to have your numbers. This era is about numbers. The fact that over 40 million or over 40,000 people died in the United States in the last, month and a half. That has never happened. Okay?
Right.
Means that it's now a numbers game. A numbers game has to do with who survives. This is about survival. Okay? The African continent, the median age, as I said before, is 19.5 million, 19.5 years old.
Lenny, I'm not shutting you up, man. Let's do this once and for all. Winners and losers of the post-COVID-19. From your own perspective, who do we think are going to be winners that are going to benefit out of it? I know one thing for sure, China is one of the winners, even though this crap came out of there, because I was just reading articles today that tells me that Shanghai and Beijing, despite their close proximity to Wuhan, were never on lockdown. The spread of this virus within those cities is very, very minimal. And looking at the stock exchange, the Chinese stock exchange, you cannot compare what the losses are or what the losses look like in the European and the American stock exchange compared to the Chinese stock exchange. So for me, the Chinese are the winners in this discussion, despite the fact that they were seen as the initial victims of this situation. Today, they opened the operations back, production is back, they're ramping stuff back, but all other part of the world is on lockdown. Winners and losers, tell me about that. What do you think?
Okay. The Chinese are not winners. They're losers in this case. Okay. You got to remember something. When you have a young population that is growing, that makes a lot of demands on you, okay, that's seeing the rest of the world out there, and that can't reach the rest of the world, sooner or later, those people develop a commodity of confidence, like what happened in Hong Kong, okay? The Hong Kong people realized we were free all the time, and all of a sudden, we have to answer to Big Brother. You can't be a winner like that. Money doesn't make you a winner. A good stock market doesn't make you a winner. Look at what happened with our stock market in the United States. Doesn't make you a winner. What makes you a winner, okay, is the satisfaction of knowing that you are next to be empowered, or you are next to empower somebody. Okay? That train called Africa has arrived. There's absolutely no way that Africa would not be a winner. Africa is a winner. Any time you get attention of what you lost and you still survive, you become the winner. And here's why I'm saying this. What has happened now is that technology has moved from IT, which is information technology, or what you say ICT, okay? It has now moved to creative application technology. And anytime the word creativity or creative is there, it is a dog whistle for black and brown people. Because that's what God gave us. You see what I'm saying? So after 400 years, the reason why the Caribbean, Black America, and Africa will be the winners is because we achieved the one thing that no one else has achieved. We are now 2 billion people in one identifiable race, one identifiable creed, one identifiable. We believe in ourselves. We believe we can do this thing. Okay? 2 billion people is the largest demographic dividend of any ethnic group. Okay? All right? Now, if anybody has had that demographic, you know what China did since December 11, 2011, when they joined the World Trade Organization. What we lack, however, and lack don't mean that we can't do anything else. What we lack is an awareness. That we are who we are.
Let me just bring him a little bit, because I finally had him back here. I was waiting to see him. Nasser. Mr. Nando, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm here.
Now, post-COVID, winners and losers. Who do you think who stands to lose from your perspective?
Well, Basically, the people that will lose are the people that have been losing. Losers will always be losers, and winners will always be winners. And Africans have always been losers. Now, let's get back to this leadership, because I'm sorry my internet connection was faulty.
Yeah.
See, I wish I had the presidents and the rich people in Africa on the phone call, because I'm going to be very plain. Nobody understands it. I'm one of the few people in the world that understands it. I'm going to break it down here real simple. It's not the kind of leadership that we're talking about. It's not the kind of leadership that you go to Harvard to study. It's the kind of leadership like me, having the mentality to control people. The reason Africa is down is because we don't have any African who has, number one, the knowledge, number two, the willpower, the mentality to want to control people. See, you have to first want to control people. When you talk about leadership, Donald Trump is an excellent leader, but he's not running things. There are a few people in the back that are not known that control Donald Trump. They control the government. They control the Americans. They control the people, and that's called the media. You use that as a machine. So first of all, you have to be a gangster mentality to take your money and build a machine. And you have to go and hide and watch that machine operate.
That's what they call anonymity. Anonymity.
Yeah, and you cannot be seen operating that machine because you will die. When you look at Hollywood, Hollywood controls the world. But who controls Hollywood? We don't know. And that's why it works. But you look at Africa. Now, okay, let's go to China. China is, I would want to believe, the second largest economy in the world. Who controls China? There's one person there. And that person is probably silent. But that person is culturally embedded. And guess what? That person is not trying to be white. They're not trying to praise Jesus. They're not trying to do anything that the Europeans sold to us. That's the problem. When you got a black person in Africa that wants to control, he must not believe in Jesus. If he believes in Jesus, he cannot do it. Because Jesus will put a certain mentality in his head, in his psychic. Now, when you have that person that does not believe in any particular God, he understands that this life is about programming. That's what television, they say programming. You have to put the right programs on TV to program people, both white, black, Chinese, Mexican, all of them. You program them together. You don't separate. So for the Africans that think you're going to separate Africans and program them, no, it won't work. You have to program the African in the same atmosphere you program the Chinese. Because if you give the African respect, you must also program the Chinese to respect the African. You have to do it all together. So the reason, I'm going to summarize real quick, the reason Africa is behind is because Africa does not have a group of gangsters who understand, number one, that they must build their movie industry. See, the movie industry controls the world. It doesn't matter what anybody else does. Every other industry is under the movie industry. Now, let's look at Nollywood real quick, because I was fully involved in it. Nollywood was about to do it. The problem with Nollywood is this. Nollywood was created by accident. Nobody went out to create Nollywood. Nollywood created naturally by people from the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, starting to make movies. And those movies being put on tape, on VHS, we started putting them on video disc, not DVD, but video disc. Then we sold it all around the world. That was the first move. The second move should have been to have the natural thing that grows from the movies, which is the media. So that the media would have told our people.
That's the network. That's the network. A digital network problem.
The media would have told our people. And it's not just a digital network. It's a complete network with physical, digital, word about everything. Yeah, it's everything in different hundreds of companies, each one doing something different. Now, what would the media have done? Let's say I was a silent African. I would have stayed behind quietly in my little hut, and I would have programmed all the media to tell people not to put their things online, because putting your thing on YouTube is stupid. It's backward. It takes you backwards. It actually is. You're taking your creativity and showing it to the world, to people that can actually use it better than you. So
Awesome.
You're taking your dope and putting it in somebody's trap for free. Now they can put out your dope for free. And they tell you, oh, if you bring this amount of viewers, then we'll break your little change. That is slavery. And you see, if we had people that knew, around 2010, when Nollywood was the second largest film industry in the world, Nollywood was at its pinnacle in 2010. But the problem then was that Netflix came in. And because Africans have this feeling that something white is better, because of the white Jesus syndrome, they saw Netflix and they abandoned what they were doing that was working and jumped ship into Netflix, into YouTube, into all these things that dilute us and make us no longer, like an industry. Now we're under Hollywood, and it has to be started afresh. That's why we're growing Lanawood. The reality is this: Lanawood or something like Lanawood is the only solution. It's the only solution.
Awesome. Let me just bring you up. Namso Omorin is a graduate from University of Uyo apparently, but he's lived in America since he's graduated. He's the brain behind Lanterwood, which is Namso Okman. Sorry, not Namso Omorin. Namso Okman. Sorry. He has created a major movement in Atlanta area, which is out to counter Hollywood. In terms of keeping it local, he is totally against the projection of Atlanta as the Black Hollywood, because there's nothing like Black Hollywood. Let us create our own brand, create our own industry, empower our own people, educate and train our own people to be able to produce movies that will gradually change the perception about Africans and African Americans. That's what he's about. I'm equally on that platform with him. So, Namso, thank you very much for that perspective. We're running out of time. Mr. Duncan, can we just have a take on you before we get up this scene? Appreciate what we're doing here. This is everybody. You're on one-on-one with kingkoko radio show. We're running on T25CL.com, Galaxy Talk Radio. Find time to log into T25CL.com. We have a whole lot of other episodes we've done, almost 50 of them. You'll be able to, privilege to listen in. It's always a spellbinder. There's always something to take out or take away from our shows. So, I want to equally ask Mr. Duncan. Mr. Duncan.
Yeah, I'm here.
Gave us a word to take home on this COVID-19. I know we identified technology as the only thing standing strong after 90 days of lockdown from different corners of the world. Technology is the only that has kept us together. We buy, sell, trade, government operations. Students are still working, are still going to school as if nothing happened for those communities that had deployed digital platforms for their people. But Africa wasn't privileged to do that, which is why today everybody's sitting at home. Government operations is shut down. Schools are all shut down apart from a few private schools like I had. So what's the parting gift you can give us, man? I appreciate your time today and thank you very much.
Okay, no, anytime, King Coco. Now here's the thing. The opportunity you have right now is based on miniaturization of technology. Now, notice that everybody is home right now, right?
Right.
There was a period of time that started on June 2007 when the first iPhone came. When the millennials went outside, everybody went mobile. Mobile. But what mobile did? It fragmented the marketing ability of any company who wanted to do mass marketing or mass communication. Okay? So now, everybody is back inside now. All of a sudden, within 2 months, everybody is back inside. What's going to happen now? You need to communicate to masses of people, friends, fans, family, faith, fellowship, fun, food, happiness. So you now have to monetize togetherness based on family, based on friends, based on faith. All these things. If you play in the key of F, you'll get your finance. You know, we have formulas we use on Wall Street in terms of investment. Take advantage of what called ESG investments. They are interested in Africa. They are interested in Black America. The problem is, when we don't operate together, we don't use our collective demographic dividend to leverage getting money into ourselves. And I'll tell you because Coco, you and I spent time in Africa, in Nigeria, and we spent time in Atlanta. Okay? Atlanta, I keep saying the same thing. I like that you want to do Atlanta with. Okay? Atlanta is like a landing ground. It's where the biggest airport in the Americas is in Atlanta, right?
All right.
You have to do something. You have to do something where Nigeria becomes a supply chain to Africa. Sorry, to the United States through Atlanta. Secondly, and most importantly, the movie industry, the music industry, okay, it is not what you sell it for, it's what the movie can sell. I keep saying that over and over because we forget that the economic model for movie monetization has long since gone. The same thing with music. We saw that what one has to do is understand that when you develop certain movies now, what you have to do is make sure that these movies are actually designed to sell something, not movies that people are going to pay for, because they're going to bootleg it again and again and again. The laws of 2000, which is the DCMA laws, allow people to just pick your movies, make money with it until you send them a cease and desist. So in that case, what we have to do in post-COVID 2020 or 2021, whenever it happens, okay? What we have to do is make sure and use our demographic dividend, even in our speech, in our lingua franca. We are no longer 200 million Nigerians, or 1.3 million Trinidadians, or 46 million Black Americans, okay? We are actually 2 billion people. 2 billion people. Once the world recognizes that we recognize our strength, then automatically we are given that ability to be the best we can be in terms of technology. Technology is no longer about the science. Technology is about creativity now. It's back to what Timbuktu was all about. So therefore, I'm saying to you, King Coco, instead of always complaining about what you don't have and make everybody believe, okay, there we go again, they will never solve the problem. What we have to start doing is start celebrating who we are. Celebrate our movies. Let's celebrate Lankawood. Whatever the brother can achieve, no problem. But what I'm saying to you, you got to use the movies and the music to sell your other products. Black American and Black African, we're all black. But the African woman is one of the most prolific marketing persons in the world today. From your wives to your girlfriends to your daughters and your nieces and so on and so forth. Where are they in all of this? They have to play a very important role because women control 80% of all the buying decisions in the black household and in households altogether. So we have to position our strength first and not spend so much time on the things that we have spent the last 30 years have hurt all the problems.
And a solution.
I have never heard someone come and say, "What's the solution?"
Okay, Len, thank you. Len, thank you very much. Not just provide solution. You have brought Lana with two. So that's an element of solution. We've heard today how 55 countries out of Africa, which we were divided way back, has been able to keep us further integrated. Even when we come into each country, we have states, we have local government that are all running as silos. So it's time that we bring in collaboration at all levels to be able to synergize and bring some exponential impact to our societies. Namsu, can you just give us a 2 minutes take on this? Are you there, Namsu?
Yes, I'm here.
2 minutes, man. We can call this a day.
Yes, we're just excited about the, what is it called, the opening of the economy that is coming. And as we know, again, it's back to us controlling our image. That's the bottom line. Us controlling our image so that we can create. As Len was talking, a lot of the things that he has said are right on point in what has to be done. But most importantly, we have to understand that it's what we're talking on this call today, on this show, is beyond the comprehension of most African leaders. They don't understand this. This is not something you go to school to learn. It's like if you ask an African leader who controls the world, they might tell you United States. That's not true. The person that controls the world is somebody hidden behind the media. And if you know that, then you might realize that you too might need to hide behind the media in order to combat, in order to be able to
anonymous. That's what my mind always says, that the most intriguing thing about success is being anonymous, anonymity. If you don't know Facebook, you gotta put your content on Facebook. You don't know YouTube, you gotta register willingly. But the minute you know who has the technology, you gotta start asking questions that you never ask Facebook or YouTube. And now, so finally, let me take another 30 seconds to run to close it out.
Well, you said another 30 seconds. I got so much to say, bro. But,
go ahead.
Let's keep our fingers crossed. Let's keep our business minds open. Mm-hmm. And most importantly, you see, the coronavirus has brought things almost to a standstill all around the world. So it's like a new beginning. So we as Africans, we have to understand that, for example, right now, what should we be doing? We should be making movies and putting African products like Dogonyaro in those movies and circulating those movies in Black America, Trinidad, South America, and all over, so as to generate revenue. Yesterday I was talking with in a club, a Pan-African movement with over 30,000 people, and they kept complaining about what Chinese people are doing to them, and they kept complaining about Africa's position and everything. And I asked them a simple question: do you guys know how to get yourself out of this? And they were silent. Some people talk about leadership, because everybody always talks about leadership. But let us remember, even if we had Jesus Christ as president of Africa, he would fail unless he understood how to create a media infrastructure. Well, I'm going to say it again. Jesus would fail in leading Africa to anywhere unless he knew how to create things like CNN, MSNBC, etc.
Awesome. Thank you, Nam. So thank you, everybody, for being part of this show. It's been an awesome hour, 45 minutes since we jumped on this boat. Thank you, Mr. Lenny Duncan, for giving us this time. I never believed you'll be my main man today, because you've always been very reluctant coming on board to be able to. But I wanted to keep on sharing the knowledge you have. It's very interesting, because if we're no longer here, we'll probably part with the knowledge that we'll be able to acquire over time. So we look forward to a lot more sessions with someone like you. I equally want to hit back on my people. You can download this show on T25CL/Galaxy Talk Radio. You go to One-on-One with Kingkoko. Download our shows. It's always available for everybody to listen. We're looking for opportunities to reach out to more people, to send us your email addresses to my messenger on Facebook, so we can actually invite you as one of the panelists to be able to contribute your fair share in how we can move our relationship as people of African descent, whether in African continent, in America, or the Americas. We can actually get to do this together. Our takeaway for this show is winners and losers. We understand that technology has shown clearly that is an ultimate platform to engage ultimate investment opportunity. Every country that has not embraced digital transformation at this point, I'm sure, does not need no advocacy anymore, which is what I've been trying to do in Nigeria for the past 12 months to 12 to 24 months. Today we have seen how this has impacted nations. Nations have shut down totally. Nations have put embargo on further export. Dependencies of one nation on the other is no longer fashionable, because, like we say, if Nigeria did not make a move away from trying to produce their own food, especially rice, today Indonesia has shut down its borders from further exportation of rice. So if COVID could continue for another 6 months, then you're going to find a lot of African countries struggling just to survive in terms of being able to even feed themselves. So it's important we look at how the situation has impacted Nigeria, the leadership vacuum that has happened in Nigeria. We pray that wisdom will play, that we'll be able to fill that vacuum effectively and with a very positive personality that could support the need to change Nigeria for the better. We have looked at how Trump has managed America, very eager to open up Nigeria, to open up America for work, because every other part of the world has opened up in Asia, but the Western world is still on a lockdown. It doesn't look good. It's not really making them feel good about it. So we just hope that when they open up, they'll drop out a lot of approach that we could use to upgrade how we manage this COVID-19. That having been said, man, I appreciate everybody that's tuned in. UD Okbok is there. I thank guys for joining us on Facebook Live. We'll keep this going. We're not going to shut this channel down anymore. We're not keeping it local as well, because we're finding that our brand is suffering greatly. So we have to create opportunities that we could equally help to defend that brand, because not everything that's put on us is true, and we all agree to that fact. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, the management of T25CL.com, the umbrella platform that we're hosting this show. This is One-on-One with King Koko. My name is Atai Albert Akbar, and I gladly appreciate having you guys on board. Thank you, and look forward to some more days. Same time, every Sunday, find time to log in. Let's interact. So let me have your email addresses so you can actually be one of our panelists, because we're very resourceful people all over. Thank you very much, and I look forward to much more shows like this. I won't stop till we get the change. Thank you very much.
Your luck.